Ladies and gentlemen, now in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the mutant class in Marvel Contest of Champions and giving my thoughts on who I believe currently are the top 10 mutant characters in the game. And I think the mutant class has really got like a lot of love over the last year and a bit. There have been so many characters that are absolute bangers that we're going to talk about today. And I feel like even the misses haven't been like that big of a miss. But anyway, we'll talk about that as we go along. But anyway, number 10, boys. Who do I have at number 10 on my list? I have the OG version of Wolverine, and that's how you know this list is going to be competitive, man, because Wolverine is he's a really fun champion to play. He's got a lot of bleed damage, and the regeneration when you have this lad awakened is absolutely massive. And I think for a lot of people, you know, especially going back, Wolverine has been one of those characters that's helped out so many people, and if you get him, like when you're around kind of like Act 3, Act 4, he's going to take you very, very far in the game. He's a really great character, but I think the thing that has, you know, fallen behind in terms of Wolverine is just the game is so demanding in terms of utility that Wolverine, being a champion that doesn't really have anything apart from a pretty good bleed and a pretty good regeneration, he's just kind of fallen behind for a lot of people, and the fact that you can't get him as a 5 or 6 star champion. So I think the 4-star maxed out one is still very useful for a lot of people that are progressing in the game, but once you hit a certain point, man, Wolverine, he just doesn't do the magic anymore. And also with the introduction of AQ Sentinels, man, and lots of bleed immune opponents, so that's lowered his value a little bit, because I always used to use this lad for Alliance Quest, but now he can't have, you know, that bleed damage. He's just a little bit rubbish against those opponents, and there are more and more bleed immune champions coming in the game. So I love Wolverine, man, but he does need a little bit more on his plate to be a bit more of a banger of a champion. Then at number 9, now I've always like fiercely debated these two, and I think these two champions, you know, you've got Wolverine X23 and Wolverine is more regeneration, X23 is more damage, but the thing about X23 as well is she has this additional cruelty mechanic, so even if she can't bleed the opponent, she's still gaining more damage there. And I think as players, you know, the average player has got better and better. The need for a champion that just goes in there and tears stuff up is a bit more needed than the regeneration, but obviously it depends on the scenario, depends on the matchup, depends on your gameplay preferences. But I would say I hold Wolverine X23 a little bit higher in regard than Wolverine at the moment, but again, they are fairly equal. Again, one is more damage, one is more regeneration there, so it's a little bit hard to overgeneralize there. But I love X23, man. She's got so much bleed damage. I've been dying to get my hands on a 5-star version of this character for such a long time, because she's so much fun to play as well. She's like one of my first maxed out 3 stars, and yeah, she's got some decent regeneration as well, and some very, very nice damage there. And I know a lot of people love X23, but those are number, what is it, 10 and 9 on the list. And then we have number 8, who is a fairly new champion that I've very much got my eye on. So we got Mr. Sinister here. Now, Mr. Sinister, for kind of the first few fights, because he's a little bit of a ramp-up champion, and you ideally do need his awakened ability to kind of collect various effects throughout different fights that give you like more special attack damage, more power rate, more attack rate, more regen rate. You know, all of this stuff can really, really add up if you're playing Mr. Sinister all of the time. But also, like, he's got some very unique utility. He's immune to reverse controls. He can block unblockable special attacks. He's got, like, the 70% regeneration on crit, so if you do mess up and get crit, you regenerate a ton of it back, which can be very, very nice as well. The heavy attack pauses debuffs. The special one transfers damaging debuffs from you to the opponent, and this can be used for all sorts of nodes. It can be used for stuff like Biohazard as well, and I think there are going to be various scenarios in the future where the special one mechanic is really useful. And then both on the Special 2 and Special 3, you've got very powerful ability accuracy reductions of 100%, which again can be a little bit prolonged as well. So I think there are a lot of uses for Mr. Sinister, and I'm seeing some really, really creative stuff in Act 6 as well. But yeah, I think he's a great champion. He kind of just lacks, at least for me, like the damage and the general utility, because his utility is all like a little bit quirky, but I still think he's an absolute banger of a champion. I've got him as high demigod tier on my list at the moment, but if the right scenarios come up, he could be god tier sometime in the future. But my 5-star unawakened one, man, isn't the most enjoyable champion to play when he's unawakened. So yeah, I think he does benefit quite a bit from that awakened ability and high signature level there. Then at number 7, we got a champion that I have a really, really soft spot for, man. I absolutely love this lad. I would love to get him as a 6-star, and that's Sabretooth. So as very base, Sabretooth is immune to Iceman's Cold Snap and Frostbite abilities, and Iceman, you know, he's just one of those really, really annoying champions, so being able to completely ignore that is just a huge plus. But also, Sabretooth's damage, man, is insane when you can ramp him up and get above like 10-15 Furies. You can get so much damage output of this champion, and then kind of adding on top of that, once you build in stuff like the Killmonger synergy and the Omega Red synergy as well, you've got ability accuracy reduction whenever you bleed the opponent, and also a counter to masochism as well whenever you apply like a debuff, 100% reduced ability accuracy, so you can ignore stuff like that you usually wouldn't be able to ignore on parries. So it's very, very useful for all sorts of stuff. I think it works for like Agent Venom, Kingpin as well, and then also you have the Omega Red synergy, so you can get even more bleeds, even more ability accuracy reduction. So there are just a lot of ways that you can you know, build Sabretooth up to deal like a ton of damage and get around all sorts of different matchups very, very effectively. So I love Sabretooth, man. He's really, really fun to play. I think kind of the biggest con of this character is like the very first matchup that you do with Sabretooth is just not really that great, because you need like to, you know, start ramping up his Furies. But once you get past that first matchup, he's pretty much on a like killing spree, aside from when you lose those charges. And I really do think if he like never lost his Fury charges, he may have like even more uses throughout the game, but it's a little bit of a gamble at how many persistent charges you're going to get, so it makes him a little bit hard to plan for in like certain types of content. But still, man, he's got his uses. He's still a very, very fun champion to play, and I love Sabretooth, so I think he definitely does deserve the what is it, number 7 spot on this list. But anyway, talking about the number 6 spot, so we have a champion that I'm dying to get, man. I'm dying to get my hands on this lass as a 5 or 6-star champion, and that's Emma Frost. And Emma Frost is a little bit of a quirky one. She has immunities in diamond form right at the start of the fight to pretty much most things in the game. She is immune to stun, bleed, poison, incinerate, shock, frostbite, cold snap, fatigue, concussion, and exhaustion effects. So whenever she's in her diamond form, and that's generally when the opponent, I think, has more power than her, she just has crazy immunities, man, but doesn't really hit that hard. And if you have more power than the opponent or use special attacks, you go into telepath form, and you can do stuff like ignore, evade, and also deal crazy amounts of damage as well. And she's a very, very hard hitter. The thing is, in telepath form, she's not immune to stuff. So for just like absorbing up pretty much any node, like Emma Frost is really, really good, because she can deal with like so much different stuff in this game. And especially with like Act 6, when we're seeing all these crazy like shock, incinerate paths. Paths are absolutely everything. The diamond form is just so damn useful. But yeah, she's got all sorts of interesting bits of utility on her heavy attacks, special attacks, and mainly for more damage as well. Also, you know, ability accuracy reduction on the special 2, reduced power gain on the special 3. Like Emma Frost, she is a bit of a Swiss Army knife of utility that works quite well for a lot of matchups, man. So I really, really do like Emma Frost, and also her awakened ability kind of caps the damage she takes from a single hit at like, well, an amount depending on your signature level there, so that can be good if you do happen to mess up, although it isn't kind of the most effective damage cap in comparison to, you know, when we're looking at the number 5 on the list, which is Iceman. Now, Iceman, I feel like I've always loved Iceman, and I feel like Iceman and Emma Frost, again, are kind of in that bracket where they're fairly similar characters, and depending on the matchup and exactly what you're trying to do in the matchup, one of them could be better than the other. So I don't think there's like a definitive, like, Emma's always better than Iceman, or Iceman's always better than Emma. I think they come very, very close together, and depending on the circumstance, one is going to be like slightly better than the other one. But Iceman is just a beast, mate. He's got, you know, natural immunity to incinerate, bleed, and poison effects. His ice armor is so useful, especially when you're playing this champion, you mess up, because even if you take like a a really, really heavy special 2, special 3. It's going to cap the damage at 5% of your max health, so it's just perfect for kind of like recovering fights and, you know, making all sorts of interesting plays there. And it takes 15 seconds to reform, or you can reform it via the special 3. I think the frostbite damage is really, really nice as well, man. This champion, he hits hard, and you can also get some big detonations off those heavy attacks if you're playing very, very aggressively as well. And also via his special 1 on awakened ability, you can prevent the opponent from evading with Cold Snap, although you do need to play fairly aggressively for this one. You can get a big old hit off the special 2 as well, and also via the special 3 you can apply Cold Snap. But Iceman, he's fairly simple to play, and I've always just had a yeah, really, really soft spot, but I think him and Emma are just really, really close together in terms of, like, ranking and value there, but I love both of those champions. Moving on to number 4 on the list, we have the king of burst damage and energy scenarios, which is Havok, and I feel like as time goes on, man, especially in next month, this dude is just going to have so much increased value, but bringing this guy, even at rank 4, into stuff like Variant and Axe 6, and I've uploaded gameplay videos if you want to see, man, he just destroys stuff. Havok is the ultimate, like, special 3 burst champion, and also his heavy attack is crazy. If you manage his heavy attack well, you can deal, like, insane amounts of feedback damage and just decimate opponents. But the fact that this lad is Incinerate immune, has incredibly high resistance to energy damage, and also any scenarios that have, like, energy damage that's being inflicted on this lad will give him, like, a huge boost to his damage output as well. There's just so much this guy can do, man, and I don't believe you really kind of understand the value of Havok until you've played the champion or really, like, looked up a lot of gameplay for him, but he is just absolutely mad. I think as well, when it comes to, like, high-tier Alliance War, Havok is going to be gaining a fair bit of popularity. I've taken this guy up to rank 5 for some thing boss killing, but he's such an interesting counter to so many really, really annoying champions. And I think as well with the rise of, like, Nick Furies coming in the future, being able to push Nick Fury, get him to his, you know, final phase, and then whittle him down to 30%, you know, via his degeneration there, and just fire off a special 3 to, like, nuke him down and finish him, and not worry about that phase. There is so much value in having, like, the most overpowered special 3 in the game. So yeah, I love Havok, man. He seems a little bit complicated at first, but he's fairly straightforward to get the hang of, and he definitely deserves number 4 on this list, lads. So yeah, big fan of Havok. But anyway, number 3 we have a champion that has just been so beneficial for me to pull, not only on the main account, but the free-to-play account as well, man, and that's Archangel. And the kind of the golden thing with Archangel is if you can bleed and poison the opponent, Archangel is probably the best counter to that opponent, because his damage is just absolutely nuts, lads. It is just so incredibly crazy if you're, like, spamming those heavy attacks, getting those bleeds, getting those neurotoxin conversions, and that's really all you need to do on this champion is find intervals to get heavy attacks and then just spam the crap out of them, and you're having a really, really great time. But yeah, he's so ridiculous. And also with the signature ability as well, you get a very strong ability accuracy reduction with neurotoxin, and also block all regeneration on the target as well. So yeah, I mean, Archangel is just nuts, man. He's just absolutely nuts. And also when the neurotoxins expire as well, they stun your opponents. So once you get kind of, like, deep into the fight, you can have, like, crazy stun chains as well. And we've showcased some of that on our free-to-play variant runs. And he's just been such an MVP for so much stuff on my free-to-play account. Act 500%, he made a breeze. He was really useful for my Act 6 push, my variant 100% push. So yeah, I love Archangel, man. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Everybody knows how much of a god Archangel is, and if you don't, boys, definitely look up some gameplay there. Now, that brings us to the final 2 champions, man, and both of these champions are so incredibly good, beyond god tier champions. So yeah, it could be either one of them at 1 or 2, man, but I'm going to say for the purpose of this list, Domino is going to be number 2, and Domino is certainly not to be underrated at all, lads. With the Massacre synergy, you can increase all of her debuff durations by a second, including the parry stun as well. So you have these crazy long parries, which you can use with the Red Hulk synergy to throw down these massive heavy attacks and get even crazy incinerate damage. So yeah, Domino is just nuts, mate. She's so incredibly nuts. And also via the special 2, the special 3, you've got these huge critical bleeds. You've got a base ability accuracy reduction of 15%, which goes even further when the opponent is unlucky as well, combined with, you know, masteries like Pacify, which reduce ability accuracy while stunned, and the longer parry stun, and also the random stuns and like random bursts of damage she gets. Like, Domino is just mad, mate. There is so much to this champion and so many cool ways that you can play her, but I think she's definitely deserving just for the crazy amount of damage, and also ability to completely ignore Medusa's auto block with her like double whip first medium attack. There are so many crazy uses for Domino, man. It's absolutely mad. So yeah, she's a solid number 2 there, but I think a champion that I see kind of taking the top of the meta by storm at the moment, especially when it comes to Alliance War stuff and Act 6 as well, is Omega Red. And again, like, Domino and Omega Red are just such insane champions, both of them. But Omega Red, like, at his base is pretty much a poison and bleed immune character, but instead of being bleed immune, he takes 90% less damage and uses that to create like a death field, which will give him like insane damage if you can throw out and land those heavy attacks. But Omega Red, to really get the value, you need him awakened, you need that high signature ability if you want like a crazy amount of damage with this lad, and he does benefit a lot from the suicide masteries as well, and also the Sabretooth synergy, which kind of increases the rate that his death spores apply. So there's a fair bit you can do to make Omega Red like an absolutely ridiculous champion, but I think one of the things that makes me value Omega Red so highly as well is just the regeneration potential of this lad. He has the potential to heal and convert his death spores into healing via the special 1, the special 3 as well, and this is just so incredibly effective for keeping this champion going and going and going. And again, with the suicide masteries or any scenario where he's bleeding, this has absolutely insane synergies there as well. Also, death spores lower the armor rating of the opponent, they reduce the opponent's chance to purify debuffs. So yeah, there's just so much mad stuff with Omega Red, but I feel like he's a champion that's just really taking a lot of the top of the game via storm. But also, one of the things, his basic tentacles also have a chance to be unblockable, so you can run up to the opponent, use a medium, and just get straight through that. And also the fact that he doesn't take damage back from champions like Electro and Korg is a really nice mechanic as well. But if you want like a champion that's just an absolute unit for sustaining going on, works so well in so many different scenarios, especially once you learn how to kind of get those heavy attacks in and counter certain heavies and heavy intercept and all that, like, there's just a crazy amount of value you can get out of Omega Red. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, as always, there is so much complexity to this game, and I think in terms of the mutant class, there are a lot of characters, you know, I like as well. Psylocke's alright for the power control in the right scenario there. Cable's okay. Nightcrawler's okay. Gambit's got a fairly nice chain stun on the special 1, which can be very useful for variant. Bishop's alright for any scenarios with heavy energy damage. Deadpool X-Force just kind of sucks, but he's got some okay bleed damage. Beast is alright. There's a fair bit Beast can do. Get a bit of regeneration as well. I look forward to ranking up and testing out my 5-star one in the near future. Storm is just a bit fun for the specials sometimes. Magneto just needs a bit of a revamp. Cyclops still kind of sucks, mate. That beam damage and armor break, you know, it's just so comparatively lacking there. Colossus, he needs a massive rework as well. And Rogue is still a pretty good champion. I would say Rogue comes close to the like 11 or 12 spot if I was to add her onto this list. But yeah, the power steal, the life drain, like those are very useful stuff when it comes to Rogue, man. So I'd say she's fairly near there. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, what did you think of the top 10 Mutant Champions video? What's your ranking? Let me know in the comment section below. Aside from that, thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.